We go forever and ever, yeah. You know that I'm much upset, yeah. You wish that you can do better, no, no, won't let her, We go forever and ever, yeah. I go and create the pressure, yeah. You wish that you can do better, You wish that you can do better, yeah, yeah. Ooh. We go forever and ever. We go forever and ever.
Welcome everyone to Coaching This Session. My name is Michael Rearden, and I'll be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about manliness in modern society. And it's going to be talking about different aspects like feminism, toxic masculinity. I mean, we're going to be going down that line of what society is saying about men today, about women today, and then understanding where we are mentally. Because right now we're in a very unique place, a place that I don't know if we have ever been before. And we have to wonder, is this a good thing or a bad thing? Well, today we're going to be talking about that. If you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and to share this video and our audio. So today we're going to be looking at my most recent blog, Manliness in Modern Society. So let's get into that blog, then dive into what I talk about, and then we're going to break all that down. So the idea of manliness in modern society came about with many of my guests that I had on recently on the podcast. There's a flow of guests that I have on, and I do it on purpose. They're not typically random. Most of the time, they're there for a specific reason, for a specific mindset journey that we're on together. So if you have been listening, and you will have heard the guest. If you haven't been listening, then you might not be familiar with the guest. And I do my best to scatter the guest. So it's not just one mindset where there might be someone who has like a very toxic type of mindset that comes on the podcast. Typically, that's not the case. I'm all about personal development and all about growth and all about you being in a better place. So I try not to bring in all that toxic and all that negative stuff. But sometimes we do talk about it. It's important for us to talk about it so we can understand that it's there and that it is a relevant conversation. I also talk to many women who have a very feministic type of mindset, a very modern type of mindset. And it's not wrong either, because if they're living their life the best way they want to and the way that they want to and they're happy, who am I to say what type of life you should be living? The only thing I'm doing is giving you the cause and the effect. If we go down this road of manliness in modern society where feminism is trying to not get equal, because feminism is not about equality, it's about being superior. And I know it's one of those things that they spout, we need equality, equal pay, things like that. That has all been debunked. What they're looking for is to be supreme. And what had happened in that process is that when they decided to be up and be the protectors and the providers and care for themselves and be independent and grown, what happened was men saw that as an opportunity to be weak. Basically, women think they're doing this in feminism. They're going up and they're going up and going up in society, but actually they're doing this. Yeah, they get some rights and things like that, so they might go up a little bit, but they're staying here. But what's happening in society is that if men were up here and then they were down here, men are just on a steady decline. So now women are higher, essentially, in the sense of their outgoingness, their ability to be go-getters, mental help. They are the forerunners in that. And there's nothing wrong with it because that is what they chose. So that's where we are. So now many men are choosing to be weaker because it's easier to be weak. And if you know anything about the brain loves easy. So that leaves us in a conundrum. What do we do with these men, right? What do we do with these weak men? Do we just kind of write them off, allow them to carry on with their lives? Are they destroying society? Maybe, right? I mean, we can have an argument on both sides. But what I find interesting is that women are going to focus on their career early on, and then eventually they're going to worry about family later on. Maybe they get to that point, maybe they don't. It doesn't necessarily matter if they do or they don't. If they don't, then they just don't have kids. Sometimes people don't want kids. That's perfectly fine, right? You can have any type of life you want. It's your life. Now, when they're older, though, and let's say they're in their mid-30s and now they're looking for a masculine man, we're fresh out of those because all the men chose to be weak because it was easier for them to be weak. So now there's a shortage of masculine, manly men. So there's a certain percent of men, let's say 40% of men who are going to hold true to those standards of being a manly man, in shape, maybe a go-getter in their career. They don't have to be super wealthy, but they have to be ambitious, because at least if they have some ambition, eventually they can reach some type of success. But what is happening now is that we just find complacency. A lot of men find complacency. They stay exactly where they are. And in our modern society, again, it's easy for us to be exactly where we are. As long as our basic needs are met, we can find a way. In this blog, I really go in depth and to talk about the difference between manliness and how we once were and then where we are today and what's going to be the cause and effect. But I'm going to be going in a different direction in the podcast, talking about some of the different things that feminism does, some of the things that weak men do, and then kind of giving you a preface of what's going to be coming on in the next couple of weeks, because you're going to want to stay tuned for that. So as I said earlier, there's a flow to the podcast. I want to make sure people are understanding that I just don't have guests on for particularly no reason. Sometimes someone might be a feminist at heart, but they're in a relationship. You can even see if you're watching the videos, if you're listening to the audio, you probably won't hear it. Sometimes you will though, for some guests. But if you're watching the video, you will see the actions of the guest, how those actions are not full of courage. They're cautious with their words. They're not confident in who they are or what they're preaching. Because what they're actually preaching is what is modern, what is popular, what is trending. So I'm going to say what should be said. Let's step into our power. Let's find our power again, because we lost our power. Well, who took our power away? I always ask that question. Who took your power away? Because if we look at men today, men gave away their power. So if men gave away their power, who took away women's power? Did women never had power and now they're looking to gain power? This is a whole conversation. But if you pay attention to my guests, and this is scattered, so you might have to watch a couple episodes, looking at some of the guests, both men and women, and seeing the difference, how confident they are. How confident they are in their speech, in their text, and what they say. And then when I question them, because sometimes when I question them in the sense of being cordial, of course, because again, this is a cordial podcast. If you have a different viewpoint, I want to hear it, because I believe that you should have a viewpoint, and your viewpoint is not necessarily wrong. Because if you're going after something different in life than I am, I'm not going to be over here saying, oh, that's wrong. Because if I'm over here saying that's wrong, or you can't do this, or you can't do that, that's a limiting belief. That's not what I want. I want to get rid of limiting beliefs. I want you to believe what you want, but then I want you to understand, are you giving yourself limiting beliefs? Because if you're saying, oh, it's this way, this way, this way only, in turn, you created a limit. So we want to make sure we're not giving ourselves obstacles or walls. We want to make sure we're making our path as smooth as possible. Now, I was watching a video the other day, and I know Andrew Tate is trending in all of social media, and he's going up, and everyone hates him. Everyone hates this guy. They say he's against women, and he was on Piers Morgan or something like that, and that all his clips are going viral. One of the things he said that got to me as interesting, I don't hate the guy. I think he has a lot of great viewpoints, and we can even talk about that. But one of the things he said was that men should be going out and being their provider, going to work, going to the office, doing what they have to do. They shouldn't be at home taking care of the kid. Women should be at home taking care of the kid, right? Basically is what he said. His mindset, right? Let's look at the mindset. His mindset is not incorrect, because if we look at what men can do and what women can do, it's a little bit different. Men can't breastfeed. So if you're breastfeeding your child, and studies have shown and proven that a breastfed baby typically has a higher IQ. Men can't breastfeed baby. Yeah, of course, you can get breast milk or you can pump the breast milk. But what happens if you run out? You don't have a steady supply, so you're going to use formula. Or you're going to have to go find a baby mama or something that just had a baby and is producing breast milk. So it's one of those things where, yeah, a man can take care of the kid if the wife wants to go off to work or the woman wants to go off to work. But how effective is it? And then we look at how men are raised and then how women are raised. Because if you're a man, typically you're going to be raised to, put dirt on it. Don't cry. Men don't have emotions. You tuck those away, right? But we know, studies have shown, neurology has shown that we need to give our children emotion. We need to smile and laugh with them and be happy with them. So we're basically saying if a man has to stay home with their kid, they have to go into that role of being emotional, being intimate with that kid and saying, hey, let's grow up, let's be happy. A woman does a better job at that, typically because that's how they're raised. They're raised to be emotional. They're raised to be in touch with their feelings. That is why a woman will get mental help before a man does. There are more women coaches than there are men coaches. There are more women coaches helping women be better, stepping into their power, than there are men. And you know what I find with a lot of men that need coaching or want coaching? They're afraid to admit it. They're afraid to admit that they're fearful, that they have some type of fear. No, they have to be fearless. Men have to be fearless. They're afraid to admit that. What that does is that stops them from understanding what they have to do, because their subconscious mind is going to still be in fear, but their conscious mind is going to be saying, no, you're not fearful, when really you are having a fear, having some doubts, insecurities, and there's nothing wrong with getting a helping hand. That's where I think is one of the biggest difference between men and women when it comes to coaching. Men are going to be slow to admit that they need help versus a woman who's going to say, I need someone to help me. If we just put that back into raising kids, if a man is going to be slow to offer that emotional support for that child's development, don't you think that child's going to be missing out? Essentially, yes. However, studies have also shown that a single parent household that has a father actually does better than if it was going to be a single parent household that had a mother for the long term. In the beginning, I believe, from age 0 to 7, from what my studies and calculations, from me being a teacher, from me working with kids for the past 15 years, actually, what I have seen, what I have known, and what I have come to understand is that from 0 to 7, if a kid has strong emotional support from their mother, learning kindness, learning how to be affectionate and caring and loving, then the man takes over around 7, teaching them how to be a man, teaches them how a man should treat them. So looking at the different genders, what should a man be? If you fail to teach, especially a young boy from the age 0 to 7, how to control their behavior, they're going to be a very rambunctious kid. So they have to learn some type of control. They have to learn how to control all that anger they have, all that energy they have. Because again, we're going to be bigger innately on a biology level. Men are going to be bigger than women. Of course, there's going to be some outliers, but we're not looking at the outliers. We're looking at the majority here of what's going to be there, what's going to be possible. And what's typically possible is that if a man stays home and the woman goes to work, the kid is going to be missing out on some emotional aspect, especially if both parents are still in the home. Now, if the father is the only one there, the kid is going to adjust. If the mom is going to be there, she's going to struggle at some point to discipline, especially a young boy. She has a son. She's going to struggle to discipline him, because I've talked about this on the podcast before, and I'm going to continue to talk about this on the podcast. A man, a young boy, will look for another man, regardless of stature, regardless of negative or positive. They will look for someone to mimic. So I'm going to look for a male role model. If I don't have a father and maybe I grew up in the hood, I'm going to look in the corners. I'm going to go be in a gang, and I'm going to look at to the leader of the gang as my mentor, as someone I should look up to, as someone I should emulate. But guess what? It's at the wrong path, right? We have to figure out what we're doing, but we're just kind of going down this path thinking, oh, this is the right way. So going back to the Andrew Tate story, he said that men should be out working and shouldn't be home with their kids, like loving and caring them. Again, for me, it's going to be a different situation depending on the person, right? Do you want to be a part of your kid's life growing up, or do you want to have a hands-off approach? I know men who do both. What I'm seeing today, in today's day and age, is that men who have a hands-off approach in the upbringing of their kid from age 0 to 7, their kid is already rambunctious, they're non-agreeable, they're combative, they're violent. So times have changed from when he was talking about men should go off and work and women should stay home, because the mindsets of how these kids are growing up is a little bit different. Now we're not requiring our young boys to go off into the world and, have manual labor. Typically, when they're 4, they can just have an iPad and stay inside all day. Versus before, if they were 4, they were in the fields picking berries or something. They were doing something, but now they're not. So our times have changed. So that way of thinking is a little bit outdated, because men are now more emotional in the sense of that men can understand that their children need more emotion from them, so they can drive some emotion, even if it's a fake emotion, or they fake it till they make it, or fake it till the kid grows up. If we look at the inception of when this happened, was when there was that push for women to go to the work, right? So who's going to watch the kid? Well, guess what? Now both parents are working because men subconsciously learned, oh, wait, she can work too. So that means I don't even have to bust my butt working 2-3 jobs in order to make ends meet because I have someone else helping me. If you're given an easy out, you will take it. The mind will take it. It sees easy. This is mindset. And it's going to be difficult for people to understand this aspect of it too. You're going to be thinking, oh, he's not ambitious. Oh, he's not hungry enough. Oh, prices of gas are so high or inflation is so high. No. Just because the gas is high or inflation is high, it does not mean that a man can't step up and provide exactly how he should. He shouldn't need another income. However, since he has another income, oh, wait, so I don't have to go to work that much? I don't have to work 50 hours a week? Okay, cool. What can I do? Oh, she can go to work too? I got to watch a kid for a day or two? Cool. Not a problem. Because that's easier than going to work and being stressed. Because the stress that men have to deal with is going to be the stress of the world and of all their environment and work and everything. But they can't complain about it. Because to be a manly man, you're going to have to do what you have to do, the hard stuff, and suck it up. We are told to not be in tune with our emotions. So many men choose not to be in tune to their emotions. And then even now, even though there's a movement of men trying to be more feminine and more weaker, these men are still not in touch with their emotions. It's like a roadblock. It's like they give themselves a block. Society gives them a block. Typically, it's going to stem from type of trauma. Maybe they have a girlfriend in high school or college, depending on where they are. And the girl says, you know what, you're just telling me too much of your problems. I need you to be a man and handle it. Because a woman is not equipped to handle a man's problems. No matter how much she says she can support him, no matter how much she trusts him, or how much she loves him, it doesn't work that way. She's expecting him to be the man. What we are doing now is we're just being complainers across the board. We're going to complain to them. Just how they would come home and complain to us and tell us about all their stuff that happened at work. Now we do the same thing. But guess what? They don't want to hear it. They're not concerned about our problems. They're concerned about their problems because they are more emotional and we need to be more sturdy. And right now there's an epidemic of weak men running around. There's not enough strong men going around. And there's a bunch of women looking for strong men. Where can I find a man who's going to step up? Be my protector, be my provider, and I'm going to be his queen. I'm going to be his, traditional wife, and I'm going to cook and I'm going to clean. I'm going to make his house a home. How often do you hear that? Quite often. The problem is 70-80% of divorces are initiated by women. So if women are initiating all these divorces, why should men even get married? It's not a good deal for them. So that means if it's not a good deal for them, why even bother? Why even bother being a manly man and being that person that attracts them? Especially now that men can go to strip clubs, they can go to OnlyFans, they can go to a porn website, and they can get their sexual fix. So they don't even necessarily need them. They might want them, they might desire them, and they might even take the leftovers because that is them. But there's going to be a group of men who are going to set themselves apart from everyone. They're going to be the manly men. They're going to be the examples of men that women want. And women are going to do what they need to do in order to get these men, whether it be negative or positive. Oftentimes, if a woman wants one of these high valuable men, these manly men, we are having a shortage of them. So supply and demand. What is she going to do for him that he can get from someone else? Because there's a bounty full of women in the world for a man to choose from. And he can pick the fittest, the most friendly woman he wants, the most feminine woman he wants. And typically a man wants a traditional woman. But most of these women today have that type of modern mindset. They have that feministic type of mindset. Oh, we can build together. Oh, I can help him. Oh, I can do this. When in reality, she should be creating value for him in his life. And in her mind, she should be thinking, how can I make him shine? Because when he shines, she shines. Of course, you can still be out there and have your business if you're a woman. You can go out there and still be a wonderful mother. And you can juggle. It's just that, what do you prioritize? And oftentimes, many women are going to prioritize their career first and family second. Not every woman. I will say that. Not every woman will do that. Some have that traditional type of mindset in the sense of, even though they've worked all of their life for a career, they're willing to give that up for a family. Sometimes it's going to be hard for someone to give that up, especially if they had to sacrifice something. Maybe they had to sacrifice their youth. And now they said, I gave away my youth for this career. I gave away one of my most valuable assets. So now I'm going to make sure I keep this career, that this career keeps me going. So they keep on pushing. But the problem with keeping on with that aspect is eventually you're going to find yourself above everyone that you're looking for. So you're going to say you want a man who's equal or makes more than you, but you have put yourself in a threshold because most men, they make $45,000 on average. So the majority of men, you have to figure out, do you make less than $45,000? For the high achieving woman, that's not the case. They're making well over 6 figures. So where are you going to find a man who makes equal or more? Either you're going to have to share a man or you're going to have to battle for him. But then that man has a choice too. Is he going to want someone who's late 30s, 40s, who has an established career? Or is he going to find a young 20-year-old and he's going to say, I want you to have my kids and I'm going to support you. You could be a stay-at-home wife. Okay, cool. This is what happens, right? So they choose the younger one, right? Typically, what happens is that the younger one, she doesn't have a traditional mindset and has a very modern mindset. She's going to either say, you know what, I'm not happy in this relationship. I feel like there's something else out there for me. Well, maybe there is, right? I don't believe there's one partner for everyone in the world. I believe I could be in a different relationship and be just as happy. It doesn't necessarily matter the relationship you're in. What matters is your mindset. What are you thinking about? What are you pursuing? How does that make you feel? And I think people get confused in thinking that their partner makes them happy. Your partner doesn't make you happy. Your partner should embellish you. But if your partner can't even do that, then are they really worth it? So you have to ask yourself these questions. So this high value man is looking at this woman who's looking for equal or more. What value does she bring? She doesn't bring youth, might not be able to have kids, and maybe he wants kids or more kids. So he's going to go for the latter. So we're looking for these manly men at a late age. But all the while we're having that feministic type of mindset, that modern type of mindset, men are just going down. They're like, okay, you want to handle it? You want to be a boss, babe? You do it. I'll follow. Because it's easy to follow. Again, if a man doesn't have to show up, he won't. Because men have gone away from having that mission, that purpose aspect. Women have that mission, that purpose aspect. They look for it. And that's what sets masculine men apart and weak men apart. A weak man is going to cower and he's not going to show up. A masculine man is going to show up. He's going to give himself goals and he's going to be hungry for more in his life. That's hard to find nowadays, but it's not impossible. And I'm going to be bringing on a relationship coach who's going to be helping us actually in a couple of weeks talk about the idea of relationships, modern relationships, the type of men that are out there, finding the right man, finding the right woman, because it's not as easy as saying, okay, I'm going to go on a dating site and I find someone, because you can go on a dating site for years and not find anyone. In reality, most of the women out today are not wife material to men. They might be good mother material, but they're not good wives. And the reason why is because they weren't raised by mothers who were good wives. So now they have to figure out, well, how do I be a good wife? What does a man value? What does the man need in the relationship? And as long as that is going to be a conversation that doesn't happen, there's always going to be divorce. There's always going to be unhappy marriages. There's always going to be conflict in your relationship. So the idea in manliness in modern society is going to be talking about several of the things that we talked about today. Understanding how society is moving and how men are choosing to not be manly, but they do have the power and the potential to be manly. And how modern society is telling women that they can be all of this and more. They can be the protector, the provider, but then later on in life, they want the man to be the protector and provider and the leader. So it's counterintuitive. They say, I'm going to be this person, but then later on, they're trying to delegate that role to someone else. Well, you have to make up your mind. Do you want to step into that feminine role and being a traditional type of woman? Or do you want to have a modern type of situation? Most women today are going to have a modern type of situation, even if they believe they have a traditional type of mindset. Most women do not have a traditional type of mindset unless they're a virgin, most likely. Typically, that's going to be the reason if they're going to be a traditionalist in the sense of, I'm a traditional wife, I'm saving myself for marriage, he's the only one. I understand there's situations where you might get into a wrong relationship, maybe cheating, infidelity, maybe something tragic like a death. Sometimes situations won't work out the way you want them to, but oftentimes we leave a relationship, or a woman especially leaves relationships because they're not happy or they're not satisfied. And then they figure out how can they be protected. And the easiest way to be protected is to not emotionally attach yourself to someone else. So I'm going to be the boss babe. I'm going to be Miss Independent. I'm going to be able to protect and provide for myself and not need a man. And a man is going to say, perfect. I'm not going to be a man. I'm not going to be a manly man. I'm not going to make all the money that I can make because the woman has it taken care of. Again, now men are just operating in the majority. And this blog is going to be talking about that. And I encourage everyone to read this blog, especially if you're in a relationship, because it's going to really show true exactly what type of mindsets are happening in our society. And you can fake it till you make it. But the thing about faking till you make it is that the true eyes of the world are going to be able to see what's going on. And they're going to see if you have a good mindset, a strong mindset. If you're not confident, it's going to show through. I had many guests who you can just see are not confident in their words because the words are not their own words. It's the words that they just regurgitate from society, or what society says that they should say, or what they should believe. My podcast is not to call anyone out and to belittle anyone. It's all about growth and positivity. So understanding that the coach that you pick, whether it be a mindset coach, a relationship coach, money coach, whoever it is, right? Learn their mindset. Understand where they're coming from. And then if they walk the walk and talk the talk. I'm a big believer, if you can walk the walk and talk the talk, then you are doing exactly what you need to do. Oftentimes, many people talk the talk, but they can't walk the walk. They say they want to do this in a relationship or do that in a relationship. They're going to uphold these values, but they can't. That they're going to be this type of person, but they can't. That they're going to accomplish this goal, but they can't. It's all mindset. And if they have a weak mindset, they're going to continue to have those hurdles in life. So if you're struggling somewhere in your life, if you're a man and you're trying to figure out how to be that high value guy, or if you want to stay where you are, and if you're wondering why you're staying down there, of course we can set up a consultation, figure that out. If you're a woman and you're trying to figure out, all right, it's time for me to settle down. You want to settle down. I've helped many women who are in their boss phase ending and they're looking for a man and they don't care what man they get. So in a sense, do women settle? Maybe. I know some do. But just because they settle doesn't mean they're not happy. It's just that instead of them looking at the superficial things like money, height, status, they start to look at things like, is he going to take care of me? Is he going to treat me well? Is he going to be there when I need him? Those values are going to be worth more to those women than if he can give you the lifestyle, if he makes a certain amount of money, or he looks a certain way. The value system takes over at some point. Now, in the beginning, it might not. In the beginning, it might be one of those things where you're looking for your manly man. If you're a woman, if you're a man, you're looking for your feminine type of woman. Both are going to be difficult to find. And if you're having a hard time finding them, I'm going to be having relationship coaches come on. I'm going to be talking about this more, and we're going to be trying to figure out what's going on in society and what needs to be changed. My name is Michael Rearden. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, email me, coachingasession@gmail.com, and I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching a Session. Until then, everyone, take care.